Alright, here we are. Live tier list. It's been a long time since I did a tier list. You can, of course, skip straight to the end of the sections if you just want to see where I've put stuff, instead of hearing my reasoning and watching me put it out, because it is a live tier list rather than a pre-recorded one. As always, this tier list is going to reflect my opinions, and this is also based on like competitive / high rank play. So, you know, if your experience doesn't match this, then, you know, that's not... Don't have a go at me, is my point. Don't come at me if you're like, no, my unit's rating is totally different. This is my opinion, and it's based on playing at reasonably near the top of the ladder, I would say. Okay, so let's just do it. We'll just go... We've got all the cards underneath each other. I'll just start from the top one. Strong Arm. I also will be adjusting stuff as I go through, because, like, I want to put Strong Arm in A, but then I might change my mind when it comes to other commanders. I might be like, oh, actually, it's more reasonable down here. I think Strong Arm is pretty good, honestly. I think Strong Arm's quite good at the moment. Like, turret's 40 cost again. It's still, like, not super high hit points, but you can spam turret pretty hard, and turret is pretty powerful, so... I think Strong Arm in A. Solomon, I think, also in A. Solomon, very popular right now. I think there's just a lot more decks around at the moment where you don't need a different commander, and therefore you can play Solomon. Or, like, there are decks that really struggle with a specific thing, and Solomon lets you beat those things. Like, there's a lot of decks you can play that really struggle with fortressy type things, and you can just play Solomon to beat it. So I don't know if Solomon should go there, but I mean, like, I feel like maybe it should just all be B, because, like, all the GI commanders are fine at the moment. So maybe they're just all B. They're like all A or all B. Seth, I think, is quite bad at the moment. I've basically never seen anyone play Seth. Kayn is way more popular in the aggro type decks. Getting a random extra flamer, not that useful in this current metagame a lot of the time. Obviously, the extra pop cap is good, but, like, it doesn't feel like that's where you want to be. Like, a lot of the games are about infantry, so a lot of the games are about anti-infantry. Back when the game was more about War Factory, you pop up a flamer, you kill off a laser somewhere, people wouldn't really be able to respond quickly and well. Like, not often they have to use their own flamers to fight back, at which point your flamer wins on defense, so it was kind of awkward. That doesn't really feel like how the meta shakes out at the moment, so I'm going to put Seth in C. Oksana, I guess, goes in... I honestly think Oksana's in B. I don't think Oksana's great. I think Oksana's just fine. I actually kind of think almost... It feels like the commanders are pretty balanced at the moment, so a lot of them are probably going to end up in B tier. Liang is D tier. Liang sucks. Liang's just absolute garbage. Even though you can move again, like, you have to deploy him a million miles back. He costs like 80 Tiberium. I know it's not 80, but it's way too much. His healing's not that great. He can't pad steal. Just kind of trash. Kayn, I think Kayn should be in A, but then I also feel like Kayn and Oksana probably live in the same tier. So maybe they're both A. At which point I feel like maybe Strong Arm and Solomon go in there with them. They're like all pretty on par. Jade is B. Jade is fine at the moment. Jade is like actually playable. I don't know if it makes sense to have Jade higher than Seth though, because that feels weird. I think probably, yeah, though. Like, Jade is pretty good at the moment. It can actually you can actually use it to kill slower units. Like, they can't dodge, so having that ability to actually delete, like, a missile squad is pretty good, even if it's a massive loss of Tiberium. I don't really think Jackson is better than Strong Arm or Solomon. But maybe he is the most popular commander, or Solomon. Let me check the top 50 analysis real quick. So the top 50 analysis is a thing that Bart does these days. I think it used to be Shookit. Bart now does it, and he basically takes the top 50 decks near the end of the season and puts them in a spreadsheet so you can see what the most popular units are. It's really cool. Really big fan of it. If we look at that, we'll see that Solomon is actually the most popular commander for the last 3 months, and Jackson is second. Liang has 0% play rate for the last 4 months. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the averages. My bad. Yeah, Solomon is the most played, though. Solomon's most played, followed by Jackson. It's been that way for like 5 months. So maybe it is okay to put Solomon up here in A and Jackson in B. I don't really feel like Solomon's better than Jackson. But then these guys are also not better than the Nod commanders are not just better than the GDI commanders. Putting Kane here and then having these guys down in B indicates that I believe Kane is better than these commanders, which I just don't. So I actually think, when it comes down to it, this is where my tier list goes. Just a mishmash. Everything's B. Like, all commanders are just B, which is good. Like, if everything is balanced, then everything will be in B tier. That's like the ideal. That's where a balanced unit would go, generally speaking, is B tier. It's not too good. It's not bad. B tier is where something goes. So, like, all these commanders are playable and fine. They're probably all B tier. I even think the old Seferino could go in there as well. I just realized McNeil's picture is not on here. Hold on. I must have picked a tier list. The tier list I picked to do, like, the original background from is actually pre-McNeil. So that's why McNeil is not here. Do we have McNeil? We do have a McNeil. All right, we're good. Let's put McNeil in. Hello? Let's put McNeil in. There we go. Where would I put McNeil? McNeil is not as good as the other GDI commanders, but he's better than Liang, so he's C tier. But then Seth, sorry, is definitely better than McNeil, so maybe it looks like this. This might be more fair, actually. Yeah, this is probably more fair, because like Kane and Oksana are probably better than Seth and Jade at the moment. Although maybe it's even like this. Oksana's really, I think, underwhelming at the moment. It's like one of the weakest metas for Oksana, because Chuggy's not that good and Inferno's not that good. So you're basically playing it with like tanks, where you'd often rather have Kane, or you're playing another commander. So actually I'm going to put Oksana in B. You know, I feel confident about this. A tier, yeah, I mean, I guess all these others go in A. It's tough, man. It's tough. They're either all... I think these are better than these, so I think this makes sense. I think this makes sense. You could also put these in B and just know that you can't compare GDI and Nod commanders with each other, realistically. And then you know that I'm not saying Kane is better than the GDI commanders. But since Kane is in A, I think I'll just put all these in A as well. Let's see what Bart's thing says about the commanders. Oksana most popular. Seth is second? I never see Seth. I don't know if I agree with this. I think Kane is seeing a lot, not enough play if this is the numbers, because Kane is very good. Anyway, I don't care about what the numbers say. This is where I'm putting them. I know there's going to be some backlash on Oksana, because a lot of people think Oksana is just the best commander and they play it in like every deck, and I just strongly disagree with that. I think Oksana's ability is fine and just not that good. I think it's very easy to use. I don't want to, like, this is going to sound like I'm being rude or something. I'm not. But like, it is easy to it's easy to have Oksana do well, in my opinion. So it's like not difficult to use. Whereas like a Kane, you spew a bad Kane, it's really bad. You spew a bad Jade, it's really bad. Any of the other commanders are so expensive. Oksana, you can fuck it up a couple of times without like losing yourself the game. So I think people like Oksana because she's easy and comfortable. I don't actually think she's that good. Like, she's fine. She's really, really good with like Inferno and Chuggy and big powerful units that you want to boost. But those units just aren't that good in the meta right now. Like, it's basically tanks that you're boosting because everyone just plays tank. And if you play an Oksana tank deck, you're really weak to Predator tank. And you're really weak to enemy Kane. So, I don't know. I don't like it. I'm gonna leave it like this. This is my final rankings for commanders. So there it is. Take the snapshot if you want it. Okay, so mutants. I think mutant is the best unit in. I actually think mutant is probably A tier. I don't know how other people feel about this, but the unit is obnoxious. Like, it just is. And I think this is my logic for this. The anti-infantry units are not great at the moment. Like, Chuggy got pretty big nerf. Drone Swarms kind of suck right now. You can't really use Venom because, like, Slingshot and Drone Swarm are both bad because of Drone Swarm and Venom are both bad because of Slingshot. Razorback is okay, but that's like kind of it. So you're pretty much just playing like Shocks and Flames and Chems and Snipers. So I think Mutant at the moment, and also like Inferno's gone. Inferno is huge against Mutant because it basically one-shots them. So that was a big beating for Mutants, and there's like no Inferno around anymore. So I actually think Mutant right now is really well positioned. So yeah, I'm putting Mutant in A because the anti-infantry right now is not super strong. So I think Mutant is pretty hard to kill. Alright, next we got Tick Tank. Tick Tank should probably go in A as well. Tanks are really good right now. Tick Tank is not significantly worse than Scorpion. So I think it makes sense to just put it in A. Like, tank is the meta right now. Everyone's just playing tanks. If you look at the top 50 analysis, you will see that Scorpion Tank is in 57% of decks. And Tick Tank was in 11. Tick Tank is quite a lot less popular. Maybe I should put it down to B. Like, it is an awkward unit to use. It is so busted, though. Like, when it gets burrowed and you just burrow a bunch of them, there are decks that just can't beat it. I don't know. It's between A and B. I'm probably put it in... I'll probably put it in A because I think Scorpion maybe goes in S right now. But it's hard because, like, S tier is usually things that are overpowered. I wouldn't say Scorpion's overpowered. It's just there's no other options. You have to play Scorpion because everything else sucks. Scavenger is going in C. It's just bad laser still. I'm sorry, it just is. Widowmaker is going in, I guess, C because it's barely playable. Like, it's cheap enough that you can sometimes make it. So... why only 80 to 90 have Scorp? Or why only 56? It's because mutants, I guess. There's 15% mutant. There is 75% attack bike. I actually don't know. Like, I don't know what these decks are playing. The decks that don't have Scorpion, I don't know what they're playing as their anti-vehicle. Because it seems like there isn't much. Let's take a look at a few samples. So Pathlogon was playing Shade Avatar. So he didn't have Scorpion. Your deck is you're listed as Widowmaker deck without Scorpion and with Chembuggy. So you didn't play Scorpion in your most played deck. That's why it's not on yours. Ensorga played Giga. Substance played Giga. Oh, sorry, Ensorga played Tick Tank. Gross. Substance played Giga. VK played Giga. It's Tick Tanks, basically. It's almost like anyone who doesn't have a Scorpion is Tick Tank almost exclusively. It's like Tick Tank and Giga makes up like 80%. Tick Tank, Giga, Scorpion makes up 80%. Anyway, Widowmaker goes in C. It's cheap enough that you can actually make it, but it's not a very good unit. I'm going to put Venom in B. I've seen a little bit more Venom lately than I would expect. Venom saw no play at the start of the season, and now is starting to see a bit of a resurgence. I guess there's less Sling, or people just accept that they're going to get fucked by Sling. I don't know. But it's a pretty good unit. Like, it's a solid unit. It just is Sling is super powerful right now, and Venom is bad versus that. So I'll put it in B. I think it's fine. Stealth Tank. I actually think Stealth Tank... I was going to put it in B, but I think it should be in C. I think Stealth Tank sucks right now. I think, like, everyone's just playing Banshee, so Stealth Tank and Phantom are just not popular at all. I don't know if C makes sense, though. Like, it's still fine. You can still play Stealth Tank. It's not the worst thing ever. It's really not great, though. Maybe it should be C. It is kind of sucky for its price. I'm going to put it in C. It's so overpriced now. Like, the vehicle damage nerf was a good change, but they need a buff to go with it. Like, why does it cost 100 when... what does a Sling cost? Like, 60? Is Sling 60 or 70? Sling 60, right? Yeah, what? A Sling is 60 and a Stealth Tank is 100? That's outrageous. This unit is way worse than Slingshot. And it, like, yeah, it used to kill vehicles, so it was way better than Slingshot, but now it doesn't. Like, it just sucks versus vehicles. It can do some damage to them, but it doesn't kill them. So yeah, this thing, it got the vehicle damage nerf, which was a reasonable nerf, but it didn't get a buff to go with it. It should have had the vehicle damage nerf and a cost reduction by like a lot, because it was a really big hit. It should have gone down to like 80 or 70, I think. Because it was such a big hit that they're not killing off like bikes and pitbulls anymore. And it's garbage versus tanks now. Alright, Shade, I guess. Shade, I guess, maybe is B. I think Shade's pretty bad, but it's not terrible. It's like a bad Orca. I think B is probably reasonable. It's fine. It's not great. Scorpion probably goes in S tier. Scorpion goes in S tier not because it's actually that great, but just because there's so little options. Like, Nod's anti-vehicle at the moment sucks. You basically have to play Scorpion Tank. You can play like Scorpion Tank, Tick Tank, Giga Cannon, or Mutant. And Mutant doesn't have good supporting cast to go with it because Chuggy's not that good anymore. But Tank goes with Flamer and Chem, so it's just great. So I'm going to put Tank in S tier, not because it needs a nerf, just because the other stuff sucks. So what I could do is put Tank in S and everything else bump down a tier. That might make more sense. But like in the metagame, you kind of have to say, if everyone's playing this unit, it's got to be an S tier. That's kind of where we're going with it. Scarabs, I'm putting Scarabs in B. I think Scarabs are okay, you know? I like Scarabs now. I don't know, I mean, I'll play them on ladder. I don't hate them. I'd rather play Scarabs than the Shade a lot of the time. Like, Scarab is okay now. Rockworm is going in C, I think. It's bugged, so you can block things that are overground whilst it's underground. That makes it way more powerful, because you can, like, underground block things, which is just disgusting. And you don't get blocked. Like, it used to be that you could get blocked from burrowing up, and it was really annoying. Now it blocks other things. So it's just tech unit. It's hard to get out, but it's an obnoxious unit once it comes into play. Phantom, I think, probably goes in B. Maybe even C. Like, no one really plays Phantom anymore. If you want to kill Orca, Phantom is great, and that's basically it. You don't really want to play Phantom in any other situation right now. That's the only thing you want Phantom against, is just Orca. So you really don't, there's no reason to play it right now. You can just kill Orca, you can kill Orca with Banshee as well, it doesn't take that long. Like, Banshee does a lot of anti-air damage. So I think Phantom probably in C is actually fair. Maybe B, but you basically never see a Phantom anymore. Rifleman, A. Riflemen are great. Good scout unit, good opening unit, loads of people play them. Hard to say anything else. Like, if you're not a wheel deck, you're a rifle deck almost always. So, just a great unit. Laser, easy S, best unit in the game. Lasers and missiles, best units in the game right now. They just are. Like, they're the completely defining the meta. Yeah, so they're not much to say there. They're just easily the best units. Laser Drone I'm going to put in C. Laser Drone sucks. Banshee exists now as well, so why would you play Laser Drone? Inferno I'm actually going to put in... I think I might put Inferno in C as well. Inferno kind of sucks now. Like, it's been slightly over-nerfed. Maybe B. Maybe B, because, like, it probably fits. The thing is, B is... I guess... I'm thinking, like, oh, B is, like, balanced, okay units, but I wouldn't play Inferno right now. But then you almost always wanted to be playing the A and S tier units anyway, so maybe B makes sense. It's not, like, terrible. I can't really put it below Scarabs. That would be kind of absurd. Yeah, I don't think I can put it below Scarabs. It's probably on par with these other air units that are not great right now, but are fine. Giga Cannon is B or C. Giga Cannon's pretty weak right now. It is still disgusting versus vehicles, and it is still a very frustrating unit to play against. Because of the nature of the charge up, you just, like, you can't force your way through their blockers. You have to move in and then move back when it charges up, and it's really annoying. So I guess I'll put it in B tier. But it's so bad versus infantry now, which I think is good. Like, MLRS is trash versus infantry. I don't see why you should have a 2-range anti-vehicle unit that kills infantry. That seems stupid. But even at tier 3, it, like, does nothing. So you can just march infantry in over and over, and that's a plan, at least, against it. Not necessarily a great one, but it's a plan. So I'm going to put it in B. I think that's fine there. Flamers go in A, possibly S. I don't know if Nod really has any S tier anti-infantry. I think Flamers and Chems are both really good and on par at the moment. They're probably just both A. I don't think they're, like... They're kind of meta-defining, like, because you have to play them. You have to play Flamers or Chems. I mean, Flamers are at 42%, which seems a little low, honestly. Chem Warriors at 14, so combined they're at 56%, which is close to Scorpion percentage, which makes sense, because if you're playing a Scorpion, you've probably got a Flame Tank or a Chem Warrior with it. Yeah, I mean, they're good. I'm going to put them in A tier. I think that's fine. Flame Tank I might put in B tier. The more, like... It is still a tech unit, and it's hard to get out, but it's so stupid. Like, the unit is so strong for its cost. It costs like 90, which is not that much. It costs less than a stealth tank. It absolutely obliterates light vehicles. Like, it smashes bikes, it smashes Pitbull. It'll almost, like, it does okay against a tank. If you 1v1, not a Predator, Predator's too many hit points, but if you 1v1 a Scorpion, it does surprisingly well. It comes, like, kind of close to beating a Scorpion 1v1, which is absurd. So even though it's a tech unit, I think it's so stupid, I'm going to put it in B tier. Fnatic, I'm going to put in D. This might feel overly harsh to you guys, but Fnatic just sucks. It sucks so bad right now. Cyborg, also easy D. This thing is wildly overpriced, and then when you make it, it's not even that good. Don't get me wrong. If you get to the late game and your opponent makes like 4 Cyborgs and 4 Flame Tanks, you're still going to lose because it's tech units, obviously. But this is one of the worst ones. Like, it's so overpriced and it's so weak for its cost. I don't really like it. Wheels A. Like, Wheels and Rifles and Buggy are the premium scout units right now. They're all good. I actually might put Wheels in B. I think Wheels are kind of whatever. The problem with Wheels is Buggy is so much more popular now because it actually does something in the mid to late game. Wheels, just like, they're a decent opening unit, but now you can open Buggy reasonably often. You just want to play Buggy instead of Wheels. I don't really know why you'd want to play Wheels over Buggy right now. The only reason is to have like a slightly cheaper unit so you can tech switch quicker. Confessor I'm putting in D as well. This guy sucks. He sucks. I'm sorry, Confessor lovers. It sucks. It's like, there's loads of Buggies and Rhinos around at the moment. It's like 110 cost tech unit loses to a 30 cost War Factory unit. This thing blows. This thing blows, Huck. I'm sorry, it blows. Chems in A. Chems and Flames are pretty interchangeable. They're both good. Like, they're just good at the moment. Like, Chem Tank, Flame Tank, both good decks. I prefer Chem Tank, honestly, at the moment. I think that's more fun. It is slightly less powerful. This should probably be, like, here. Because I think it is worse than Flames. Maybe it should be B there. I don't know. It's better than the B tier units, though. Like, it's a solid unit. Chem Buggy is B. It's still okay. It's not terrible, but it's not what it used to be. It no longer reigns supreme like it did. But it's not trash. So I think B is fair. Centurion sucks. I'm sorry, Pontiki. It's just a bad unit. It costs like 100 and it's not that powerful. If you're gonna make a Centurion, you should just make a Rockworm. Because it's way better. Buggy, I think, goes in A. Buggy's really popular right now. Very good opening unit as an alternative to a 10 cost. And it's just decent. It's just a solid unit. Buggy combined with Tank, very, very strong. Basilisk. Basilisk, I think, C. Basilisk is pretty strong in its 2 range. Again, though, tech unit expensive. But if you get it out, it's pretty great. Banshee is Banshee S? Banshee might be S. I think Banshee is S just because the same reason as Laser being S, which is that it's in basically every deck right now. Not because it's overpowered and super busted or anything, just because it's a utility unit that Nod cannot do without, really. Nod does not have good, cheap anti-air, because bikes are not Pitbulls. Bikes are so much worse than Pitbulls. They just, like, they are not a reasonable solution to air. Banshee gives you that solution to air. So I think it makes sense to put Banshee in S. Avatar, I guess we'll go C tier. It could be D, honestly. It's so expensive. It's not as good as a Mammoth Tank even. But I mean, it is pretty powerful. You make an Avatar, you know, you're gonna win a lot of the time. Bikes are A tier, obviously. Then potentially S, honestly. Like, bikes are ridiculous. But I think the reason I'm not putting bikes in S is that Buggy is getting popular. And there are actually quite a lot of decks that play Buggy, no bikes. So it's not just like a requirement unit. Also, like Banshee. Banshee existing means that there's decks that can play Buggy Banshee and like Laser as their anti-air and not require bikes. It used to be that you pretty much had to put bikes in every deck. That's just not true anymore. I'm going to put Artillery here for the same reason as Flame Tank. Or maybe it should go here for the same reason as Flame Tank. If you actually make it, most decks can never win. So that's a pretty stupid unit. The other thing I could do is bump Flame Tank and Avatar, the Artillery down and all the other tech units down to D. That would also be a pretty reasonable thing to do. But these 2 tech units are obnoxious. It's like, if you could make these reliably in every game, they'd be like triple S tier. They'd be like up here. They'd be like so far above everything else. Because the actual stats on these units are ridiculous and they're so dumb. But they are held back by the fact that a lot of the time if you make one and it dies, you lose the game before you can make a second one, which is like a unit that you can only make once the whole game. Pretty sketchy. Catch-up I'm putting in D. This thing sucks. It sucks so bad, man. It's just garbage. I've played it a fair bit. It's just terrible. It's just bad versus everything. Just a horrible unit all around, really. Huck says Cat is underrated. Yeah, I mean, I've put it in D, so it couldn't be overrated. But the unit is terrible, for sure. I might bump down some of these tech units to D. I think this is a fine place to leave stuff, though. I think I'm pretty happy with this as my tier list for Nod. Like, if you look at the actual decks that people play, they're almost entirely comprised of A and S tier units. And you could even put Mutant and Tick into B, and that statement would still be true. Because everyone just plays Nod aggro at the moment, because there's no other good Nod decks. Like, Nod decks suck. You can basically only play Nod aggro. There's a very, very small number of diversity in amount of diversity in Nod. And I think the culprit of this is Chuggy and Inferno getting nerfed. Because those were two units that you usually didn't play aggro deck. Like, you didn't play tank. You played a different deck entirely. So these two now being much worse means that everyone's just kind of forced to play this if they want to be competitive, which I think is not a great spot to be in. Like, Nod unit diversity is very low at the moment. Nod is struggling. It needs more reasons to play. And this is an interesting idea, or, you know, thesis or whatever for balance. Is it better to flatten the curve and have all the stuff roughly the same power level? Or is it better to have, like, quite a few really strong units that you can build around? Because the current balance has been pushing towards a flattening plan. And the problem with that is, anytime you have a single outlier, everyone starts playing it, because it's like everything else is so the same that everyone has to play the good thing or lose to the good thing. So unless you can flatten the entire format, which is quite difficult to do, you kind of price people into playing a single deck because they have to play whatever the thing that isn't balanced is. The other way to look at it is if you had like a few key units that are really strong, like build around units, then there are always going to be decks that are made up of those units, right? Like when Chuggy and Inferno and Scorpion were all really good, all three of those decks saw play. Like Mutant Chuggy was popular, Nod Aggro was popular, Chuggy Inferno was popular. These were all like they were viable, multiple viable decks built around very strong units. Even like Tank, you saw combinations as well. Like people played Tank Inferno, people played Chuggy Tank. Like these were strong units that could go together but didn't necessarily have to, and then it gave rise to multiple different decks built around these core strong units. Now you have one core strong unit, which is like the Scorpion. Yeah, Chuggy as well. Yeah, like Giga as well. Yeah, Giga was busted, so there was like Giga decks running around. There were like core units. You'd never put Giga and Scorpion in the same deck, so them both being really good meant that you had two whole archetypes built around these super strong units. So maybe this is actually a better way to balance. Or at least it's a better way to balance if you want diverse decks, because there will be more people building different decks around different busted units than if you just have a flat curve, which I think we kind of have now. I actually think the game is quite balanced at the moment, but because everything is so low power level, the things that stand out get way more play than they should. Whereas in the previous patch, like a couple of patches ago, Giga, Inferno, Chuggy, Scorpion, Mutant, these were all good units. So you saw a lot of different decks built around these different variations of powerful units. Now it's like all these guys kind of medium except Scorpion, which still rocks. So everyone just plays Scorpion. Anyway, let's move on to the GDI tier list. We're going to start with Wolverine. I think it's probably fair to put Wolverine in the same place as Widowmaker. S tier are all anti-armor. Yeah, the anti-infantry kind of sucks right now. I've said this a few times, but yeah, anti-infantry is not great at the moment. That's just the way it is. Like, there isn't any super strong anti-infantry, so a lot of the game is kind of based around lasers and missiles. Okay, so Wolverine's going in C. It's basically the same as Widowmaker. Missile Trooper, easy S, not close. The entire game basically is built around missiles and lasers. Missiles, I think, are slightly less obviously S tier because you can play Jump Jets and Grens, and then you might not play Missile in your deck as well. Like, especially Jump Jets. A lot of Jump Jet decks don't also play Missile Troopers, so it's pretty reasonable to say that... Why does my... Are these not... No, they're not positioned the same. That's why it's not working. That's weird. I wonder why these things are not positioned the same. It's fine. Let me just edit the crop again. Alright, that's good enough. You can see now. Anyway, yeah, so you can play like Jump Jets instead of missiles. A lot of, like, some decks do that. So you could maybe say missiles are not S, but let's be real. Missiles are absurd. Missiles and lasers are the best units in the game. Zone Troopers I'm going to put in D for the same reason as Cyborgs. Even when you get to them, they're not even that good and they're quite expensive. They're not as bad as Cyborgs. If Cyborgs and... Like, if there was an extra tier, Cyborgs would be down one more tier. because zone troopers are better than them, but they don't earn C tier, so they have to still go in D. It's because these cyborgs should be like in E tier. Fucking hate cyborgs. Dogs, I'm gonna put in A tier. Dogs are better than rifles, I think, at the moment. Like sniper deck plays dog, shock deck plays dog, MLRS decks often play dogs. A lot of dog decks. I think dogs are really good. I think dogs are better than wheels at the moment. But again, because they're different factions. Oh, actually, I've got wheels in B tier, so that actually kind of works out. Titan, I'm gonna put in C for the same reason as Rockworm. If you actually make it, it's very powerful. Like, it'll often win games. Talon, I'm gonna put in B, which Huck is gonna be like, oh, Talon's terrible, but it's fine. Because people are cutting bikes. If you don't have bikes, Talon's actually pretty annoying to fight against. So because people cut bikes occasionally, Talon can be quite good against those bikeless decks. It's pretty trash if your opponent has bikes, though. It's also bad versus GDI. It's pretty weak. I don't know. I probably wouldn't play it right now, but I play against it quite a lot. And I'm not always like, oh, this unit does nothing. Like, it often does stuff against me, so I don't feel like it's fair to put it down too much. Snipers, easy A tier. Snipers are like S tier when you're, you know, Huck or Quasar or whatever, like a super sweat lord who loves snipers. But for the average man, they're A tier or even B tier. For the average player in Gold League, they're like D tier. But yeah, A tier, I think, for me. Good unit, a lot of work though. Juice is not worth the squeeze on snipers a lot of the time. It's like it's too much hassle. I'm gonna put Sling in S. This unit's stupid. I think this unit is very meta defining right now. I think it's obnoxious. It's just dumb. Like, it shuts down so much. And it's not even that expensive. Like 60 is not crazy for a unit that just completely obliterates air on like all relevant tiles. So yeah, I really don't. I hate Sling, but I'm not gonna argue with it being very good. Okay. When a catship flies towards your infantry, you think, oh fuck. When a Talon comes in, I laugh at it. Yeah, but Talon shoots air. It's not in B tier because it kills infantry quickly. It's in B tier because it kills air and because it can kill your infantry. Like, you do have to answer it or it's going to kill your infantry eventually. Shocks A tier as well. Shocks and snipers are pretty much the same at the moment. Snipers are better if you're a sweat lord. Shocks are easier to play and you'll get roughly the same effect out of them. Shocks are like, I'd say shocks are like 5% worse than snipers and 50% easier to use or something like that. Maybe like 100% easier to use. So if you want to put the effort in, sniper is definitely better. But for the average mere mortal, shocks will do better than snipers for you without being anywhere near the work. Shatterer, I guess B tier. Shatterer is like, oh, it's not good, but it's not completely unplayable right now. Sandstorm D, this unit is absolutely terrible. It's so expensive and it has no hit points for a tech unit. It's actually terrible. Rifles probably have to go in A, although maybe they're B. What do you think, Huck? Where would you put rifles?
I love how the tier list continues to change, despite no updates.
Actually, Joe, I haven't done a tier list in a really long time because there's been no updates. Like, there was a patch like 6 or 8 months ago or something, and I finally get around to do a tier list for it. I think rifles probably go A. Like, most people, like, you open rifle or dog or rhino always. Rifles are a good unit. I actually don't. You know what? The more I think about it, it's definitely an A unit. Like, it's a great unit. There's nothing wrong with rifles. It's almost never a time when you make rifles and they're trash. The things that really make rifles bad are Chuggy, which isn't seen that much play anymore because it's not great. End of list. Like, I guess Shocks and Flames a little bit, but even then, you sometimes make rifles to kill off like a single shock man, and it's okay. I think rifles are good. I'm gonna put Rhino in A as well. I think Rhino and Buggy are pretty close now. If you open barracks and your opponent opens rifles, it's a fucking beating, man. Like, if you're barracks and your opponent's open Rhino, it's the worst. It's so difficult to win first missile against Buggy or Rhino with a barracks opening, but it's way harder against Rhino than it is against Buggy, because you can't even fight it with a missile plus a rifle. It'll just beat them both easily. So I think Rhino is really strong at the moment. It sees quite a lot of play. I haven't tried playing it enough because I prefer to open dogs and rifles most of the time. Like, I like Razorback decks, so I prefer opening rifles. But it's, yeah, Rhino is really good. So Razorback I'm going to put in S, I think. Razorback is the best anti-infantry unit right now. However, Slingshot exists, which means that, like, Slingshot just annihilates it. Like, you can't Razorback when there's a Slingshot. So, if there's no Slingshot, then Razorback is easily the best thing you can do against infantry. If there is a Slingshot, the unit is unplayable, and that's why you have to play a second anti-infantry unit. But if there's not a Slingshot, it's easily the best. So, I think I have to put it in S. Predator is in A. Tanks are really good right now. Even, like, for GDI and for Nod, tanks are great right now. So it goes in A. Pitbull I'm putting in S. Like, let's be real, guys. It's just actually just like the best unit in the game. It just is. It's so good. Pitbull is so versatile. It's always been great. I think it probably should have been S tier every single tier list I've ever done. And there are times when I've not put Pitbull in S tier, and I probably was just wrong. Pitbull is insane. Although, now thinking back, in like tank heavy metas, maybe Pitbull wasn't that great. Like, if everyone's just playing tank mirrors, Pitbull's not that good. But also, like, the rise of Banshee makes Pitbull even better right now. Pitbull's great right now, so I'm definitely putting in S tier. Borker I'm putting in C. It sucks. It maybe even is D. Honestly, I think it might be D. It's so bad. I'm so disappointed every time I make this unit. Yeah, I'm putting it in D. I'm so sad every time I make this. I'm so disappointed by it. It's only when the opponent is, like, asleep that this thing gets anything done. This needs a buff. It's so bad. Harkinator disagrees. Dude, Borker is trash. I'm sorry, Borker's just trash. Orca in A. This is borderline S. Orca is incredibly good. Orca's just a beast of a unit. It's just really good right now. Even with slings around, Orca's just really good. Mohawk I'm gonna put in C. Again, like, Slingshot exists. This should be a good meta for Mohawk, because there's, like, no stealth tanks around, which is the thing that really punishes it. But Mohawk loves Liang, and Liang is garbage. And Mohawk hates Slingshot. Mohawk, I think, the Mohawk Slingshot interaction, I think, is, like, the #1 example of why Slingshot is busted. Because a Slingshot costs 60 and a Mohawk costs 50. And they only fight one type, so they're only made to fight each other. Mohawk should be able to compete with Sling. It should. But it just doesn't. A good Sling player is going to obliterate Mohawks. I've seen games where people don't even bother blocking, really, and the Mohawk tries to fly up to the Sling and still gets fucked up. That's ridiculous. It's a 2-range unit. If you have a 2-range unit and it's counter, even if it's a soft counter, which is what this is, because they match each other, they counter each other. Even if it's a soft counter, if you have a 2-range unit, a soft counter rolls up to it, and they're, like, equal in cost, the 2-range should lose. You should have to sit. You should have to sit behind something for your 2-range unit to win. Otherwise, it's dumb. Coach says Mohawk should be A tier because it destroys MG. It does not destroy MG. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's an anti-vehicle unit. So I'm putting it in C tier. And also, this is why, like, Sling is stupid. Like, Sling should... This is, like, if there's no stealth thing, right, Mohawk should be great, and it's not. And that says a lot about Mohawk. Because if this unit exists in a metagame without stealth tanks, and it still sucks, then it's a bad unit. MG, I kind of want to put it in S because it's fucking stupid and overpowered, but I'm going to be realistic and put it in B because it's actually still so awkward to use. But it's such a dumb unit. For 30 cost, this unit is easily the most powerful unit in the game. Like, for cost, I think it even beats missiles and lasers on efficiency. In fact, I know for a fact it does. A planted MG is definitely better than missiles and lasers. You can beat off buggies. Like, it's 2-range. It's ridiculous. It's so broken. And the only thing that keeps it in check is the fact that you can't really play Harvester decks with MG that effectively. And no Harv MG has a bunch of things it just auto loses to. The unit itself is disgusting, but there isn't that good a deck around it. The only, like, there is the Oaken deck, and if you've ever played against Oaken's GDI, you'll understand what I'm saying here. Oaken's GDI shows you how obviously overpowered MG is. Because he plays 1 Harv MGs, and if you play on a map where MG is good, he just makes like 1,000 MGs, and they're so hard to beat, because they are so busted. And he doesn't, like, no offense, Oaken, love Oaken, Oaken good player, but he doesn't play the games well with the MGs. He just makes a bunch of MGs, puts them in the middle of the map, and then makes Orcas and Iron Cannons. It's fucking ridiculous. And the unit is so busted, but if you play on a map where MG sucks, it's just a free roll. Like, he can't possibly win. When the MG sucks, he just loses. Because the MG is bad, and his entire deck is built around the fact that MG is broken. Anyway, I'm going to put it in B, because that's like in between. It's kind of like a D or an S tier unit, depending on the map, and B's in the middle, so... I don't think it makes sense to put it in B, though, because B is where I put balanced units, and this thing is far from balanced. This thing should get nerfed. Although my personal opinion is this unit should just go in the dumpster and never exist ever again, because I genuinely don't think it brings any joy to the game. I think it's just, like, actually one of the worst designs in the game. I think the game is vastly superior if this unit doesn't exist. Or just a complete rework. Total rework of the unit would also be fine. Okay, Mammoth Tank, I'm putting it in D. Sorry, Mammoth. No, I'll put it in C. It's so bad, though. It's so expensive, and it's so slow. I'm putting it in D until they fix the speed bug. They nerfed the speed, and then they reset it, but they put the speed number wrong. Oh, no, the other way around, so they buffed the speed. Then they put it back to the original speed, but they got the number wrong, so it's slower than it should be. So until they fix that, I'm putting it in D tier. MSV, D tier. Thank God this got changed. This is another unit that just shouldn't exist, in my opinion. I'm really glad they changed it to just be a meme unit completely, because... I don't think anyone here enjoys playing against MSV Fortress. If there's someone out there who's like, oh yeah, MSV Fortress is my favorite opponent, then you're insane. MLRS I'm going to put in A. I think A. This unit's really strong right now. There's a lot of MLRS Razorback decks, and like MLRS is really good against the tank decks and the buggies. So I think it's just really well positioned right now. Kodiak, I guess D. Sorry, Huck. Like all tech units, its stats are kind of nuts, but it's in the tech lab and its stats aren't that nuts. JJ's I probably have to put in A. I'm loath to admit it, but they probably have to go in A. They're actually a viable replacement for missiles. These were balanced when you could block them. Maybe they were a little underpowered and needed a slight buff, but when they're unblockable, they're just incredibly annoying, and people just spam jump jets and fly over you, and they're just one of the most annoying units in the game. And that power, it cannot be underestimated, so I'm going to put him in A. Juggernaut, I'm going to put in D. Again, don't feel bad if you've lost to a Juggernaut. I've lost to Juggernaut plenty of times. Like most tech units, once it's out, once it's set up, you probably just lose with a bunch of decks. However, this one is way more awkward than Artillery. Way harder to use, way slower, more expensive, much, like, kills your own units, so much worse than Artillery. But yeah, I mean, you can lose to this unit, obviously. It's a tech unit. You can lose to any tech unit, but except maybe Wolverine and Widowmaker. You can lose to pretty much any tech unit, but obviously it's a tech unit, and it's a really awkward one. I'm putting Hammerhead in C. I don't know about this. Maybe Hammerhead should be B. It feels very expensive right now for what it does, and you can just play Sling like everybody else on the planet, so it doesn't feel great. The things you want to hunt down are like Razorback, end of list. It doesn't even smash Banshees as hard as you'd think it would. It should crush Banshees, because it crushes Talons, and they're the same air to air. But Banshee's just so cheap, and people make so many Banshees. And I think the support of bikes, which a lot of decks have, makes it so easy to get chip damage onto the Hammerhead whilst it's trying to chase down. Like, if you're fighting against GDI and you're clearing out Talons and your opponent makes a Pitbull, you'll take like one hit whilst you're running away. But if someone makes bikes and volleys you, it's way more damage. So I think Hammerhead, not great right now. Grens. I actually think Grens are kind of balanced at the moment. Like, having played Grens in this metagame, they're pretty strong, but they're not insane, and they're very expensive. They are fast, which is good, but I think Grens are about right at the moment. I don't feel like I have to play Grens or Orca or Pitbull. Oh, sorry. I don't feel like I have to play Orca, Pit, Predator, Gren, or MLRS. Like, I feel like I can play any of these at the moment, and they're all decent. I think Grens are the weakest, probably. Maybe I could just bump all of these down to B tier. I feel like they're all pretty much okay at the moment. These are more A tier because they're good, rather than because I think they're balanced. Like, these are just the good units right now. So I've kind of changed what my tier list does, because normally I do like B tier is balanced and A tier is too strong and S tier is insane. I'm kind of going with like strong units in A. I also wanted to make it clear how good GDI is at the moment compared to Nod, and how much versatility they have. GDI, there's several decks you can play and they're all strong. Nod, there's like one deck you can play that's good, and it's a tank deck. So that's the main reason I'm putting a lot of the GDI stuff in A, is just to demonstrate that, in my opinion, the GDI stuff is better than the Nod stuff at the moment. But really, it could all be in B. Huck says Pred and Orca A, MLRS Gren B. I think MLRS is on par with Pred at the moment. Maybe not Orca. I could see this being B along with Pred. Like, I could see all of these just being B. I think that would be pretty reasonable. Then maybe Jump Jets go to B. No, I'm just going to put them all in A. I think I want to represent the strength of GDI. And I think this is the easiest way to show that off. Drone Swarm is pretty bad right now. I'm going to put it in C. It's like the worst Drone Swarm has ever been. There's a lot of slingshots around. Also, Buggy and Rhino being more popular. Those things are really good against Drone Swarm. Like, there are Nod decks that don't struggle to kill Drone Swarm anymore because they have Banshees and Buggies. So that was like the #1 reason to play Drone Swarm, was it was good versus Nod. Now it just isn't. Ruptor. I think Ruptor's pretty powerful if you make it, but the awkward mechanics of Disruptor, where if you retarget it has to recharge its whole shot, is heinous. So I'm going to put it in D tier. APC, I think B tier. APC solid unit. I like APC. I like playing APC. Nothing wrong with it. I'm never like, I can't believe this guy's playing APC. I'm never like, I can't believe this guy's not playing APC. I think it's pretty much the quintessential B tier unit. If anything, it needs a small buff. But that might just be because all the GDI stuff is in A, so comparatively, the APC is quite weak at the moment. It's definitely better than Shatterer as well, and Talon, so maybe it should be in A. It's like B.5, it's like here. It's not good enough to hang with the A tier units, but it's better than most of the B tier units. But it needs a small buff. Or all of these GDI units need a small nerf. I think the slight buff on the APC makes more sense. So there we go, that's going to be my finished tier list for GDI. And there you go, that's what I think. All my opinions, obviously, don't pitchfork me, don't burn me at the stake for my opinion being different than yours. I'm not saying it's fact, it's just what I think. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the live tier list, and I'll see you all next time.